Good evening, guys. How are we all? I hope you are good tonight. So it's almost 8 o'clock and it's time for Marketing Monday. And I hope you've had a really good weekend and you've been very busy. So while we're just waiting for people to join us for Marketing Monday, I've got a couple of questions that have come in for me today. So I'll go through those. But while we're waiting for everybody to join and hop in and get the live started, I just want to go through a few things that is happening. So I've been doing the content calendar and it is very nearly done and I'm really excited about it. I'm sorry that you've had to wait so long. It's basically because there are over 700 dates and ideas and things going into it. So as you can imagine, it has been a huge project to get it finished and to get it sorted. And I'm so excited to be sharing that with you. So the content calendar should be finished within the next day or two. And also we've got the wall planner, which I'm going to give away. And one of the questions that's coming tonight is when you're going to get it. Now this is my draft. I don't know if you can see it very well, but this is the draft tonight that's going to go off to the printer. And so the idea is that this is going to be a nice big wall planner that you can put onto your wall, and we can go through and we can get your content planned out, we can get your year planned out, we can make sure that you've got some goals in place, and so that 2019 is going to be your absolute smasher of a year for your business. So if you're excited about that, give me a thumbs up and let me know that you're here. And I will also be posting the link at the bottom of this video when we're finished as to how to get your name down to get your wall planner, because I'm going to give them away for free, which I think is a crazy idea. So you'd be crazy not to take me up on the offer. But yeah, they're going to come out to you for free. So if you fancy one of those, stay tuned and I'll be sharing the link in the comments at the end when we're finished, because I haven't quite finished getting that done. Because I've been working on the content calendar. Hiya, Helen. Nice to have you here. Right, so the way it's going to work a little bit tonight is that I'm sorry, just playing with the screen for a minute. I'm going to answer a few questions, and then hopefully we're going to have Chris join us, who is going to go through a little bit about what he does with the bookkeepers along with the show, shall we? And let's answer your questions. So again, one of the first questions that I've had tonight, I'm just going to look at my computer because I've got all the details on there. So Melody did ask, when you're going to get your wall planners. Yeah, they're off to the printer first thing in the morning. I get everything printed locally, so it's normally done within less than 24 hours, and I pick them up, and then I'll be sitting down and handwriting all your letters and all your envelopes, so they should go out and hopefully we'll be with you within the next 7 days max, because I know you're as keen as me to get everything planned. And as part of that, I was thinking of perhaps if anybody's up for it, I don't know if anybody would be up for this idea of maybe doing a live planner session, a bit like a workshop where I help you to go through getting your content planned, getting everything ready, and helping you personally to go through each quarter and to start getting some things sorted. So if you fancy the idea of us having a planning webinar or workshop, please add a comment and say, I like that idea, I'd be up for that, and maybe we could get that added in. Okay, so so hello Alison, it's nice to have you here. Hello Helen again. Hello Laura. Hello from Mallorca. Wow, is it lovely out there? I really could do with some sunshine. You see, I'm a bit pale and pasty, so I could really do that. So I hope it's nice out in Mallorca. Okay, so the other questions that I've had tonight, we've got a couple of other questions. So Alison messaged me and asked about Instagram and building a following, and Alison said that hers is just static in numbers, and she knows that you should engage and comment on posts to help increase followers, but you really haven't got the time to do that as well as everything else and running a business. And I totally get that. Good evening, Chris. I'm glad you've joined us, because we're going to hand over to you in a little while once I've finished talking. Is the plan. So when it comes to Instagram, Alison, this is what my tips would be. Number one, have a little bit of a strategy, and think about just posting once or twice or even 3 times a week. it's a steady process, and I think it's one of those platforms that isn't as easy as Facebook to master, because you can't post, you can't do the comments, you can't add the link as easily. But once you get into a rhythm of it, it becomes a little bit easier. Now, I use a few little tips and tools for my Instagram, which has really, really helped me to boost my numbers. And I don't know if you're following me on Instagram, but I haven't been that active till recently, probably in the last month. And I've pushed my followers up in the last 2 or 3 weeks organically by about 200-300 followers. And again, I'm going for following consistently with people. And I've been using a tool on my phone, which I'm not sure if it's, what's it called? It's something like Instagram. I'm just gonna, I don't know if I dare touch, the phone, because it might break. But I use an Instagram following app, which basically tells me how many users I've got. It tells me how many users have unfollowed me. It tells me how many aren't following me, and how many are following that I'm not following. And it can do other things as well, which I wouldn't really suggest that you do. Or it's a free app, but that way I go through, and when somebody follows me, and I think I have a look, and I think, oh, there's somebody I'd like to follow, so I follow them back. It also makes sure that I'm keeping that gap between, because you don't want to be following 1,000 people and then only having like 200-300 followers. It doesn't look great. You want to keep it a little bit sort of consistently working out. And then again, those people that just follow me for a follow and then delete me, then I take them off too, because otherwise you just end up building a massive list of people that aren't actually following you. So again, once I finish the live, I'm going to make a note of what the Instagram tool is that I use for that. But I found that really, really helpful at monitoring my following on Instagram. The other thing you do is just think about your wall and how that actually looks, because when people find you, it's got to be consistent and have it look a little bit on brand. There's another tool which you can sort of lay out how it's going to look, so you can plan your posts and lay them out, and it does remind you to schedule them. It doesn't actually schedule them, you'd have to copy them over into Buffer on your phone, but it's quite a nice way of planning how your feed is going to show up. I love doing the stories. The stories are a really good way, and again, it's always with the hashtags on Instagram and getting consistent with the hashtags. So if you're one of my people that has purchased the content calendar, I will be sending you my own personal list of hashtags, which I use, and I've been doing them in blocks of 10. I did show you last week where I have like little blocks of 10 for people that like to target equestrian business, a little block of 10 to target horse lovers, a little block of 10, and you can do a similar thing, which will hopefully start to get you shown on their feeds. But absolutely, you are right, Alison, it is totally about getting that engagement and talking and getting that rapport and that feedback. So make sure that you're following people that you do actually want to have a little bit of feedback with. I think with what you do with Tail End Jewellery, I think it's going to be fair enough that you're not going to be expected to have that relationship, because it's a shop sort of platform, which again, people aren't used to having shops that talk back to them, but you can respond to those that do comment to you. Put some good things in the story, maybe show a couple of behind the scenes quickly would be nice. I'm sure people would love to watch behind the scenes of how you do all the jewellery and how you get that sort of work in, which you can do in the stories. And maybe just think, I'll just pop in once or twice a day, and I normally pop in the morning and do a quick story, post something, and then I pop in again at the evening and just reply to any messages, or I have a quick flick through and I might then go back and say, oh, I love that, or whatever. But I think it's one of those things you don't want to be spending too much time on. And with Instagram, you can get it to limit how much time you spend on it. So mine flashes up when I've been on there 20 minutes, because I don't want to spend any more than 20 minutes on Instagram. So I hope that's been helpful. If I get any more ideas on Instagram, I will let you know. But that's what's working for me at the moment, and hopefully it would help you. So I'll post in the comments the name of the app that I use that helps me to see my followers, helps me to see those that have unfollowed, and those that I'm following that aren't following, and those that are, gosh, it gets confusing, doesn't it? And those that are following and I'm not following, if that makes sense. So I'll post that into the link. And so the other questions that I've had tonight was from Helen Johnson. So Helen's here, and Helen says that a local equine vet has advertised a part-time job plus applicants to apply for occasional seasonal work. So she wants to apply as an occasional, however they want 2 references, and this is okay, but all my references are pretty much for my jobs that are outside of horses. So although I've had horses for over 20 years, I've competed in many spheres and done a lot of veterinary things with mine and other horses, i.e. injections, medications, the vet type thing. I haven't actually worked with horses in a job role to be able to give a reference. Do you think that this will have an impact on my application or any other work that may come my way? And I honestly say, Helen, I wouldn't worry too much about that. Not having the experience. Sometimes, in my experience, not having the experience is actually beneficial, because you're a bit more of a blank slate. You're less likely to be going, well, this isn't how we do that, and this isn't how I do that. So sometimes that can actually work in your favour, not having that experience. But as long as your reference meet the criteria that they're asking for, and that you can prove that you've got the skills to do whatever it is that they want to, if that's admin or whatever, I wouldn't be too worried about the references. And as long as when you speak about horses, you show that you've got that expertise and you show that you know what you're talking about, again, I think that would be absolutely fine. I don't know what everybody else thinks on the call. If you've got any ideas for Helen, do feel free to add your thoughts in. So yeah, that's what I personally think. I think you'd be absolutely fine. Go for it. Don't let that fear hold you back. And if it helps you, just think about getting yourself in the right mind frame to actually put that application in and know that you are actually able to do it. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can hand over to Chris.
I'm really thankful for being invited into your group. My main business is working with bookkeepers. So I run a similar organisation, a similar group to this, but for bookkeepers. One of the things that I talk about quite a lot with bookkeepers, and I really would love to share with you tonight, is pricing, because I think that pricing is such an amazing part of marketing that's often overlooked. We don't always think that pricing is part of marketing, but it's something that I've been really interested in for, good 5 or 6 years now. And it's something that so many bookkeepers get wrong. I mean, I work with bookkeepers all the time. We see many bookkeepers charging crazy prices, like 10 or even £6 an hour, where we advocate to our members a minimum of £35 an hour. And back maybe 2 years ago, when I first started talking about bookkeepers charging £35 an hour, I was getting responses of shock and horror, whereas now we've got many members charging £35 an hour and more. So before I start talking about a couple of bits of pricing that I think would really be helpful to you, I'd love to know a bit about the type of business that you run. Most of the pricing stuff I do is for service-based businesses, but the research is just as important and just as able to be used in product-based businesses. So quickly, if you can, type in the comment box what kind of business you run, what it is that you do in your business, and I'll try and tailor a couple of these hints specifically for your business. One of the things I should have said is that if this goes well and it's something that you're interested in, then I've got a full webinar on pricing and some of the strategies, some of the research behind pricing, some of the psychology that's been done by far cleverer people than me around pricing that I'd love to share with you. So if this is something that interests you, then we can get that arranged. So yeah, just quickly stick in the comment box. I know that the problem with Facebook Live is there's such a delay between me speaking and you actually hearing it. So the comments tend to run a bit delayed, but stick in the comments box what type of business it is that you run, and hopefully we should be able to tailor some of this stuff to you. The first thing that I would say about pricing actually is that most people are totally clueless about price. Just give me a sec, I just need to scroll down. The comments are coming thick and fast. So we've got a bit about products, some service-based business, and some more products. Fantastic. So yeah, one of the problems about pricing is that we all think we're experts at pricing, and we all think that we know exactly the value of things. And in actual fact, research has shown that we, as consumers, don't really know the price and value of anything. And to demonstrate it, I would ask how much you'd be prepared to pay for a birthday present, for your significant other, or even a piece of jewellery for yourself. And we've probably got this idea in our mind about what we'd be prepared to pay, but anybody that's ever used eBay will know that regardless of the arbitrary cap that we set ourselves, as soon as somebody bids just that bit higher than us, suddenly our limits and our value that we place on it get blown out of the water totally. So we don't really know the value of things. We don't really know what things are worth. Economists will tell us that we base it on the utility that we get from something, but that's nonsense as well, because we don't all have ready reckoners of how much utility something is going to give us. What we tend to do is compare and contrast. So we tend to remember what we paid for something before and expect it to be similar, or we compare it to other things that sit beside it in the shelf, or we have a search around for other things that we think are similar to that product or service, and we start to compare. I mean, if you think about, if I gave you a suitcase and asked you to pick it up and tell me how heavy it was, there's no way that you could do it, because our brains just don't work that way. And the same is true of pricing. But if I did give you two suitcases and to say to you, tell me which one's heaviest, you could do it just like that in a total snap, because we are so used to continually comparing and contrasting things. And that's the important bit about pricing. In pricing, it's called anchoring. So what we do is we anchor prices to other prices, and things can look expensive or cheap in comparison. If you've ever looked in a jeweller's window, you'll know exactly what anchoring is about. Jewellers know that the best way to sell an £8,500 watch is to put it next to a £12,500 watch, because next to that expensive watch, £8,500 looks relatively cheap, and relative, everything is relative in pricing. There's been some research done on this. The first bit that I want to share with you is research actually that has been done by two guys from MIT University called Christopher Puto and Joe Huber. And what they did is they took a group of students and they offered them two different types of beers. They priced one at $1.80 and one at $2.60, and they asked which one they would choose. And actually, 33% chose the cheapest, and 66% chose the more expensive. So Christopher and Joe said, well, what if we add a third? So instead of just having the one at $1.80 and one at $2.60, they added another one at $3.60, and they asked a different group, what would you be prepared to pay for that now? Which one would you be prepared to buy? And nobody wanted the cheap one now. So we've gone from 33% wanting the cheap one to nobody. We haven't changed the cheap one. We haven't changed the price. We haven't done anything other than add a more expensive. Suddenly, most people were going for the middle option. And this is a really, really important thing about pricing, is that 90% of people went for this middle option and only 10% went for the most expensive. And that is because when we don't know the extra utility, as the economists would tell us, between numerous items, we tend to choose the Goldilocks option. So we tend to go for the one in the middle. We avoid the most expensive and we avoid the cheapest, and we buy the one in the middle. I should say I'm talking a lot about pricing because I'm really interested and excited about pricing, but if you've got any questions about pricing, stick them in the comments box, and I'll try to answer as many as I can. And this anchoring idea actually works with things that are not even about price. So we can take a totally random figure and use that to anchor. Now, I do this talk, and I have been doing this talk to bookkeepers for about 5 years now. And when I used to do it, they used to say, yeah, that's fine. That's fine for people who don't know about numbers, don't know about figures. But we work with figures every day of our lives. We know what things are worth. We do it all the time. So these sort of cheap parlour tricks might work with other people, but they won't work with us. So what I actually did was I sent out a quick survey to all of my members, and there's about just shy of 1,000. And I said to them, what's your national insurance number? What are the last two digits of your national insurance number? And I said, would you be prepared to pay that amount for a bottle of wine? And if not, what price would you be prepared to pay for a bottle of wine? Now, there is no figure more random than your national insurance number. Your national insurance number, or at least the last two digits of your national insurance number, should have absolutely no significance in deciding what the price of any product or service should be, even a bottle of wine. So why is it then that when we had our members say that the end of the national insurance number was a number between 10 and 40, they were prepared to pay £10.41. When it ended 41 to 70, they were prepared to pay £15.62. And when it ended 71 to 99, they were prepared to pay a whopping £25.12 on average. And it's because we have this anchor in our head. We have this idea of a number in our head. So it's quite easy to then start to anchor our answers and our values that we would pay for things to that number that we have in our heads. The important thing, I think, that comes from anchoring and from the understanding that we don't know the true value of things is that when we sell one product or one service for one price, it's normally the wrong price. Just think about that for a second. If you're selling one product or one service at one price, for most people, that's going to be the wrong price. So what should you do? Well, maybe think about the research that Christopher and Joel did, and maybe what you want to do is think about how can I offer a range of options. If it's a product that you're offering, can you offer it in a range of sizes? Can you offer it in? Can you offer additional features and a higher offer? Can you take what product you've got and can you add extras to it? Now that might not even be about the product, that might be about how it's delivered. I'll go back to bookkeeping because it's what I know. Bookkeeping would seem to be one service at one price, but we can add so many extras in, like how quick we turn the books around, whether we pick up the information from our clients, whether we speak to HMRC on their behalf. So think about your business and what extras you can offer. Remember in Christopher and Joel's experiment, when they added a third higher priced option, then 10% of people wanted it. So it's worth having that higher option, even if it's only for 10% of your customers to take. And the last thing I really want to talk about is charm prices. Charm prices are those wonderful prices that we see in the shops that end with a 9. There's arguments that it can work as well with a 7 or a 5, but research has shown that it does work best with 9s. And prices that end with 9 can even outsell lower prices. So if your price doesn't end with a 9, it's worth having a think about it. Even if that means taking your price up slightly to make it end with a 9, there is research out there that shows that it's still worth doing. I know I've spoke for ages, and I know these lives aren't normally quite so long, and we've had 15 minutes at the beginning. So I just really want to wrap up there. I've given you a couple of ideas, and if there's any questions, then I'll try my best to answer them. But the point that I would really like to get across, and I'd really like you to take away from tonight, is that pricing is as much part of your marketing as how you design your logo, as the type of social media that you use. Pricing can influence whether somebody buys from you or not, and that's not always about discounting. I think that we've got a habit as if sales go low, we think it's because we're priced too high and we pull that lever of pricing and we get the discounts in. And in actual fact, that it's not always so simple that your price is too high. Even putting your price up can increase your sales. Okay, so I don't see any questions, but let me know if you're interested in hearing more about pricing, and I'm happy to do a webinar specifically for this group, and we'll try and tailor it a bit, be about 45-minute webinar, so we'll get something prepared if you're interested.
Hey, I just wanted to come back live and just say thank you ever so much, Chris, for joining us tonight. I found that really, really useful, and I hope you guys did too. Please do let us know if you found this useful, and if you've got any questions or comments for next week's live Marketing Monday and what we can do to assist you for that, or if you'd like to come and join us and you've got something to share with the group, do of course send me a message and say, yes Jenny, I'm up for doing a live in the group, and if not, I will come up with another Marketing Monday idea that hopefully we can share. And again, thanks ever so much, Chris, really appreciate that, and I hope that you found my tips for Instagram and for what else did we do? Can't even remember. But if you found my tips useful earlier, do have a look at those. And of course, I will share that out with everybody. So I'm going to let you all go and have a really good evening. Take care. Bye.